A $1,500 machine just outclassed Harley, and you've probably never even heard its name. It's banned, buried, and blacklisted for a reason. Watch to the end, because if you miss this, you're missing the truth about what freedom on two wheels was supposed to be. The $1,500 threat. This wasn't just a budget cruiser, it was a threat in disguise. At first glance, it looked like something straight out of Milwaukee. Low-slung frame, belt-driven rear wheel, a teardrop tank in matte black or candy red, chrome-wrapped V-twin silhouette, unmistakably American in posture. But squint just a bit and something felt off. The tank didn't say Harley-Davidson, it said Keyway. The Keyway V302C, unknown to most Americans, outperforms Harley's entry-level bikes and sells overseas for just $1,500. Full steel, V-twin, belt drive, digital dash, upside-down forks, all for less than a new iPhone. No catch, just competence. While Harley throws lifestyle branding at young riders, Keyway throws engineering. The V302C doesn't ask you to buy into a culture, it simply works. No leather vests, no tribal tattoos, just cold, polished steel in a tight, confident silhouette. But specs alone don't change the world. Feel does. Performance specs were just the beginning. What came next made Harley nervous for a reason. If this story is already shifting how you see the motorcycle world, hit like and drop a comment below. We read everyone. What do you ride? What's priced you out? Let's make this a space where riders speak the truth mainstream brands refuse to hear. Built to beat the system. It wasn't made to disrupt, it was engineered to outperform. The Keyway V302C didn't arrive by accident. It came out of a quiet collaboration between three global powerhouses. Keyway, a budget-focused brand originally from Hungary, partnered with Benelli, an Italian company with over a century of engineering heritage, and handed assembly to QJ Motor, a Chinese industrial giant with roots in military productions and high-performance race bikes. This triangle of influence was surgical in its approach. Benelli handled design. QJ Motor built the parts and assembled the bikes in ultra-modern facilities with robotic lines. Keyway leveraged the partnership for branding and global distribution. The result was a machine that looks American, rides European, and costs less than most scooter upgrades. Unlike Harley-Davidson, which is still dependent on legacy tooling and slow model cycles, this coalition pooled resources from a dozen platforms. They used shared engine blocks, standardized frame geometry, and universal digital systems across multiple brands, cutting costs without cutting quality. That kind of parts integration is something Harley hasn't come close to since the mid-20th century. And the effect was immediate. Low emissions, streamlined certification across Europe and Southeast Asia, a supply chain that made the bike affordable in 30 countries and invisible in the United States. But all that tech would have meant nothing if the ride didn't deliver. Still, no machine earns respect from a spec sheet alone. The real test was waiting on the road. Looking for gloves, jackets, or gear that actually holds up? We've listed our trusted picks in the description below. Real protection, no dealership markup. Rides like it shouldn't. It glides where Harleys rattle, and that's not an exaggeration. Riders who've tested the Keyway V302C alongside Harley Street 500 or Street 750 know the difference instantly. At low speeds, the Keyway feels agile and planted. The throttle responds smoothly, not jumpy. The clutch engages predictably, with none of the vague friction zone Harley's beginner bikes are infamous for. It doesn't buzz, it doesn't jerk, it just rides. With a seat under 28 inches, balanced weight, and smooth ergonomics, the V302C offers comfort without compromise. Reviewers from Spain to India call it shockingly refined, outperforming Harley's sub-$10,000 models in control, comfort, and everyday rideability. One review went even further, calling it the first Chinese motorcycle that feels more Japanese than American. That's a quiet nod of respect for balance, ride ergonomics, and long-term tuning. And Harley riders are noticing. Some say it feels more like the original Honda Shadow than anything out of Milwaukee in the past 15 years. But even perfection on paper doesn't guarantee long-term trust. Even that ride could have been dismissed as a fluke until riders started racking up real mileage. Survived what Harley wouldn't. No plastic tanks, no buzz, no peel, no excuses. The Keyway Fee 302C shouldn't be this solid, not at $1,500. Yet riders in Europe and Southeast Asia are clocking 10,000 kilometers or more with no major breakdowns, no cracked welds, and no mysterious squeaks. That's rare even for bikes at triple the price. Clean welds, durable paint, a quiet belt, and a reliable LED headlamp make the V302C shockingly dependable. For daily riders, it simply works. No quirks, no breakdowns. At this price, it doesn't just rival Harley's entry lineup, it exposes its flaws. But it's not perfect. The gearbox can feel stiff in colder climates. The clutch lever has been criticized for being too heavy for city riding. And while parts are shared with other QJ motor platforms, access to spares can be inconsistent outside major cities. The dealer network in some regions is thin, but those are logistics, not engineering. And for a bike that costs less than a cross-country plane ticket, that's a shockingly small list of complaints. In fact, more than a few riders have started calling it the anti-Harley. Not because it's rebellious, but because it's honest. It doesn't need to sell you a dream, it just delivers a ride. So if this bike rides well, lasts long, and undercuts Harley by miles, why are Americans locked out? Banned by design. It passed in Europe. It passed in Asia. It failed in America. On paper. The Keyway Fee 302C isn't illegal in the United States, but it might as well be. For riders trying to bring one in, the process is a bureaucratic minefield designed not to stop unsafe bikes, but to stop unfamiliar ones. Selling a motorcycle in the U.S. means clearing EPA emissions tests, DOT requirements on lighting and labeling, and NHTSA rules for crash data and recalls, even if the bike already meets Euro 5 standards and has no history of safety issues. Each step sounds fair. Each rule seems reasonable, but stacked together they form a wall. And for small or mid-tier global manufacturers like Keyway or QJ Motor, that wall is all but impenetrable. Every test costs tens of thousands of dollars. Every form must be translated, submitted, verified, and renewed. The smallest clerical error can trigger denial. The wrong bolt size on a mirror bracket, one missing recall notification, a federal ban. Meanwhile, major brands, Honda, Yamaha, BMW, sail through the process. They have legal departments, US-based testing centers, and insider knowledge of the system. But newer brands, especially Chinese-backed ones, face delay after delay, form after form, fee after fee. This isn't just regulation, it's restriction by design, not to keep riders safe, but to keep rivals out. But who built this wall in the first place? To understand who's keeping this bike out, you have to look at who built the barriers and why. Harley wrote the rules. What started as protection became policy. In 1983, Harley-Davidson was on life support. Their market share had plummeted. Japanese bikes from Honda and Kawasaki were flooding into US dealerships, cheaper, faster, and more reliable. Harley cried foul. They lobbied President Reagan for help. The result was the Motorcycle Tariff Act, a 5-year measure that slapped steep import taxes on large displacement motorcycles, mostly aimed at Japan. Harley used that breathing room to reorganize. But they didn't stop there. Over the next 4 decades, Harley embedded itself in the system. Their executives served on transportation advisory boards. Their lawyers helped draft safety rules, their consultants influenced how vehicle identification numbers were structured and how emission standards were enforced. Slowly, what began as a defensive shield became a sword. Regulations evolved, ostensibly for safety, traceability, and consumer protection. But Harley made sure those same rules mirrored their own production standards. Bikes with belt drives, chrome handlebars, and specific reflector placements passed with ease. Bikes that didn't look or ride like Harley's, they hit roadblocks. And when a rival brand did manage to break through, Harley still had one more weapon: the dealer network. Behind the scenes, lobbyists and corporate reps pressured local dealerships and lawmakers to resist change. Independent importers were met with red tape. Parallel distributors were boxed out of financing and insurance systems. One man tried to break through it and paid the price. His name was Marcus Dean. He had cash, patience, and a dream. What he didn't have was permission. One man versus the wall. He just wanted to ride it down Main Street. Marcus Dean was a retired aviation mechanic living in rural Arizona. He had owned a dozen bikes in his life. When he saw a video of the Kiwi 302C, he thought, "That's the bike Harley should have built." It had everything he wanted: a steel frame, liquid-cooled V-twin, and a seat height that wouldn't punish his knees. So he ordered one. He wired $2,000 to a distributor in Spain, added $600 more for shipping and customs, and waited. The bike arrived in pristine condition at the Port of Los Angeles, but customs flagged it. The EPA sticker wasn't US validated, the VIN tag failed DOT format, and the NHTSA database had no record. Bureaucracy stopped what engineering had perfected. Marcus filed appeals. He submitted documentation. He called state offices, insurance agents, and import brokers. Nothing worked. One clerk told him outright, "You'll never get this titled." Eventually, he registered the bike as an off-road custom vehicle, just to legally move it on his own land. He never got to ride it down Main Street. He never even got a license plate. The process drained him, not financially, but emotionally. The silence from every agency, every office, every official felt coordinated. He wasn't a threat. He was an inconvenience. A reminder that choice in America isn't always earned. It's managed. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, another market didn't just open the door, it rolled out the red carpet. Europe said yes. In Spain, they sold out. In France, they made sense. In Germany, they started a movement. While Marcus Dean was arguing with the Arizona DMV, dealers in Barcelona were selling every Kiwi they could get their hands on. In Paris, riders looking for weekend cruisers chose the V302C over 10-year-old used Harleys. In Berlin, dealerships made room on the showroom floor next to BMWs for something new. European regulators didn't treat the Kiwi as a threat. They certified it quickly under existing pan-European safety rules. Insurance companies recognized the brand. Training schools used it for new riders. Riders didn't see a Chinese motorcycle, they saw a practical one. The V302C didn't ask for loyalty. It asked for a test ride. And it delivered. Affordable, balanced, no fluff. In a continent where gas is expensive, cities are dense, and wages are stagnating, the idea of a stylish, low-maintenance cruiser under $2,000 wasn't revolutionary. It was obvious. And the reaction was personal. Riders who'd grown disillusioned with Harley's price creep called the Kiwi the correction. One viral review from the UK said it best: Harley gave up on the working man. Kiwi didn't. And while Europe moved forward, something far bigger was already unfolding behind the scenes. China's cruiser invasion. Harley thought it was one bike. It turned out to be a beachhead. The Kiwi 302C didn't arrive alone. It opened the floodgates, and what followed wasn't a trickle of imitation. It was a torrent of reinvention. In cities across Asia, Eastern Europe, and Latin America, Chinese-built cruisers are rolling into the streets with confidence, tech, and a price tag that makes Western competitors sweat. Lifan's Vi 16S, Benda's BD 300, and Zonte's Vi 310 offer cruiser style, modern tech, and real performance, all for a fraction of Harley's cost. These bikes deliver premium features while undercutting Milwaukee by over $10,000. What these bikes share isn't just styling, they share intent. Each one delivers the look, feel, and torque curve of a mid-size cruiser while completely rejecting the bloated pricing and overhyped branding of legacy players. These aren't knockoffs, they're disruptors. All of them use shared engine platforms, modular frames, and robotic assembly lines. All of them are backed by firms tied into China's industrial backbone. Companies that don't need to turn a profit on each unit because they're playing a longer game. The result? In Brazil, Lifan has overtaken Suzuki in cruiser sales. In Vietnam, Benda has become the most imported Chinese motorcycle brand among urban riders under 30. And in Spain, the V302C is outselling the used Harley Street 500. But the rebellion wasn't just from overseas, it started at home too. The dealer who walked away. For 2 decades, Tommy sold the dream. Then reality walked through the door. Tommy Brooks ran a modest Harley-Davidson dealership in a rural county near the Ozarks. He kept a Road King in the garage, wore the gear, and hosted Sunday rides for veterans and local blue-collar families. He didn't just sell motorcycles, he sold pride. But around 2019, the showroom started to feel different. The customers got older, the prices got higher. The company started sending marketing kits for the Livewire and the Pan America, bikes no one in his county wanted or could afford. Finance terms tightened. Entry-level models disappeared. The base Sportster was gone. In its place, a 600-pound electric cruiser priced like a luxury car. Tommy tried to play along. He pushed accessories. He hosted ride nights. He did everything the brand told him to, but he kept hearing the same thing from his customers. "I love Harley, but I just can't justify it anymore." Then one night, browsing a European forum, Tommy found a video of the Keeway V302C. It looked like a Harley. It sounded better. And the price? Under $2,000. He was skeptical, but intrigued. He ordered one through a contact overseas. The moment he rode it, everything shifted. It wasn't just competent, it was effortless. Steel frame, belt drive, digital dash, LED headlight. It rode like a dream, and it cost less than the average Harley down payment. In 2022, Tommy handed in his Harley franchise license. He took down the bar and shield sign. He repainted the walls, changed the logo, and rebranded as an independent importer. Now he sells Keeway, Lifan, and Benda. Bikes that his customers can afford, bikes that don't come with a subscription or a sales pitch, just good machines priced fairly. But this wasn't just a business shift. It was a cultural defection. Harley's being replaced. It's not about chrome, it's about control. What we're witnessing isn't a cheap imitation game. It's a calculated strategy, economic, ideological, and deeply intentional. At the center is QJ Motor, one of the world's largest motorcycle producers and the engine behind Keeway, Benelli, and others. Backed by state capital and aligned with industrial policy, QJ Motor isn't just making bikes, they're making statements. Their factories build everything from civilian cruisers to police units and military motorcycles. Their design teams partner with Italian studios. Their logistics networks reach over 70 countries. And their mission? Replace, not replicate. The goal isn't to mimic Harley's style, it's to absorb its symbolism, rebellion, freedom, power. Then rebuild those ideals in Chinese factories and sell them back to the world. Faster, cheaper, better. This is what made the Keeway V302C so dangerous. It didn't just look like a Harley. It offered a better experience at a tenth of the price, without nostalgia, without branding, and without compromise. So Harley had a choice to make: fight smarter or pivot hard. What they did instead shocked everyone. The EV nobody wanted. They thought loud pipes were the problem. They were wrong. When Harley-Davidson unveiled the Livewire, they billed it as a revolution. All electric, instant torque, fast charging, urban focused. A rebranding exercise built on the idea that performance and prestige could replace heritage and grit. But instead of igniting a renaissance, it alienated the very people Harley claimed to serve. The Livewire launched above $30,000. Harley targeted tech-savvy urbanites who don't ride, ignoring the working-class riders who never asked for electric pivots or luxury pricing. Instead, they got push notifications, screen-based dashboards, and a machine built for Silicon Valley photo ops. Harley's attempt to go modern skipped the most important step: listening. The bike didn't flop because it was electric. It flopped because it felt like it came from another planet. A planet where grit was replaced by gloss and power was measured in apps, not miles. So what happens when those same riders start demanding change? And while Harley chased headlines, Washington held the gate, and riders were locked out again. Protection or power? The rules don't protect the road, they protect the past. On paper, the United States is open to motorcycle innovation, but behind the curtain, federal and state regulations form a dense thicket of red tape that keeps most foreign bikes out. Not by banning them outright, but by making it financially and legally impossible to sell them. The Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Transportation, and National Highway Traffic Safety Administration each impose distinct U.S.-specific regulations. Each certification step costs tens of thousands of dollars. Miss a comma, rejected. Translate the form incorrectly, seized at the port. And who benefits from all this bureaucracy? Not the rider. These rules don't make bikes safer or cheaper, they make the market smaller. And that serves exactly one group, the brands already here. Harley-Davidson has spent decades embedded in the regulatory process. It's not conspiracy, it's influence. Through lobbyists, industry committees, and trade groups, Harley and its allies have shaped the standards that now choke out new entrants. These non-tariff barriers are invisible to consumers, but brutal to anyone trying to compete. But that silence is starting to crack. That pressure's building. Investors see it. Foreign markets feel it. And Harley? They're already reacting. The money's leaving. Harley's investors want tech. Its customers want trust. You can't please both. In boardrooms, the pressure is on. Shareholders don't care about leather jackets or legacy, they want growth. And growth, they believe, lies in electrification, software, and global urban markets. But every pivot toward that vision moves Harley further from the people who built it. The Livewire underperformed, the Pan America struggled. Entire model lines were scrapped without warning. The Sportster phased out. The Street Series canceled. Entry-level access gone. Dealerships in rural areas are shutting down. Meanwhile, overseas, the tide is turning. Kiwi is growing across Europe. Zontes is gaining traction in Southeast Asia. Benda is expanding into South America. They're not just chipping away at the market, they're claiming it. These aren't temporary shifts, they're structural. As Harley pours millions into urban branding, its competition quietly builds relationships with real-world riders. Not with slogans, with affordable machines that actually work. And that leaves one group in the crosshairs. If this hit harder than you expected, subscribe. Because this isn't just about one bike, it's about everything the industry's hiding from real riders. This bike is a statement. It costs $1,500, but it speaks for millions. The Kiwi 5 302C is more than a motorcycle. It's a signal flare, a rallying point for riders tired of sticker shock, dealership games, and tech they never asked for. In an industry that preaches freedom but sells debt, this bike is proof that another path exists. It delivers comfort without compromise, performance without pretense, style without surcharge, and most of all, it restores a sense of dignity to riders who've been priced out of their own culture. This isn't anti-American, it's pro-rider. It's not about rooting for China, it's about demanding better from the brands we built. The V302C didn't win by shouting, it won by showing up, working hard, and staying honest. That's what made it dangerous. Not the price tag, not the specs, the honesty. In a market filled with marketing, the V302C told the truth, and riders heard it loud and clear. And it's not the only one. This wasn't just about one bike, it was a wake-up call. The Kiwi 302C exposed an entire system built to keep riders quiet and overcharged. If that hit home, subscribe now and let us know your thoughts in the comment below. Because more stories like this are coming, and you won't hear them anywhere else. We're covering the machines they don't want you to know about, the riders being left behind, and the future of motorcycling they're trying to block. Stick around, because next time it might hit even closer to home.